Good evening and welcome to the District 4 Redistricting Workshop. Tonight we're going to hear about potential maps. We're going to hear how you can draw a map, how you can have comments inserted into the record, and we are doing this live at the Pleasant Hill Community Center. If anybody is out there and wants to come down, please feel free to come on down. We're probably going to be here for at least the next hour. We are also on Zoom, and I'm assuming that information has been given out to the public in some format. And you can also call in. And Chris, can you give us, well, let's wait because it's going to be a while. We've got a presentation. So I want to introduce our former county administrator and person who knows all about redistricting. He is our guru, Mr. David Twa.
Well, thank you, Supervisor Mitchoff. This is the second, actually third, in a series of the workshops that we're doing. And so there's plenty of spaces here, and I'm not within 6 feet of anybody. I will move the mask down so it's a lot easier to hear me. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to start by showing you in terms of some basic information about the redistricting process, why we do it, and what's important, and what both the state and federal law requires that we do as part of the process. I will then turn it over to Christine Solna, who is with the Department of Conservation and Development, their mapping division. We do have the director from the department, John Kopchak, who is here this evening. So thank you, John, for being here. And then after Christine has covered how you can draw maps, both for communities of interest, as well as potentially drawing a supervisory district maps, she will then turn it over to Chris Howard, who is another representative from the Department of Conservation Mapping Division, who will explain some of the concept maps that we have prepared for the board to take a look at as we move through the redistricting process. So, as everybody knows, the Constitution requires that every 10 years we do a centennial census, and so that was done in 2020. We are very happy to say that it was very actively done in Contra Costa County. We were very high in terms of the actual participation rate, which was very helpful. And essentially, based on that, the board has to redistrict. The last redistricting we did was of course, 10 years ago in 2011. At that time, this is what the districts ended up looking like and are what they are as we're speaking today. But of course, we know the population has grown. So we've gained about 119,000 people in Contra Costa County in the last 10 years. And of course, one of the standards of redistricting is the idea that you try to be as close as possible to one person, one vote, and that basically contained within the U.S. Constitution. But you're allowed to deviate, what's called a deviation, either 5% above the mean or 5% below. And the purpose of that is it's recognized that it's virtually impossible to make the districts truly equal in population. To be equal in population in Contra Costa County, each district would have to have 233,613 people. So as you can see from this map, that figure that you see in the lower left-hand corner, it says 7.91%. So that is the extent, based upon the current population in Contra Costa County, how much we deviate from that ideal representation of 233,000 people per district. The way the mean is calculated gets sometimes confusing to the public. So what you do is you take whatever district is highest above the mean, and you add to that the district that is the lowest below the mean. And those two numbers together is what constitutes the deviation. So again, in this case, as you note from this, we had one district that, District 2, that was above the mean. We also had a district that was below the mean. You add those two numbers together and we get that 7.91%. As part of our redistricting process, we have done our best to try and go out and encourage the people to participate with the redistricting. So we've done that certainly not only through our public hearings that I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment, but also during the public outreach. So we have a dedicated redistricting website. Everything that we do and say goes onto that dedicated redistricting website, as well as anything that we receive from the public. So that would be by letters, by emails, by people actually drawing their versions of what they think an appropriate community of interest is, or if they draw what they believe to be the more appropriate supervisory district map. All of that gets included. Any individual who wants to get the information directly from us can go to that website and subscribe. And if you subscribe, basically anything that we put on there will get pushed out to you through an email system. Additionally, of course, we look to see how many people are actually using our dedicated redistricting website. So as you can see by this number, about almost a little under 5,000 people have actually gone and used our dedicated redistricting website. We've also used Twitter and Nextdoor posts to try and push the information out to the public to get them involved in the redistricting. As you can see, as of a week ago, we're a little over 117,000 posts, both on Twitter and on Nextdoor. As I indicated, we've tried to have a robust redistricting public hearing process as well. So we had our first redistricting hearing back in August. This was before we had any data because the census had not released it yet. But we had that one because we had set up our dedicated redistricting website as of August 1st. And we wanted to make sure that the public could have access to it, could look at it, and determine how they might want to draw maps, again, of either communities of interest or for the actual districts themselves. So on September 20th, the actual census data was released. In California, we're required to use what's called the California State Adjusted Census Redistricting Data. So that data includes what you would normally expect from the Census Bureau, but on top of that, what the state of California does is it redistributes any incarcerated individuals who are at state institutions. So it doesn't include anybody who would be incarcerated at our local jail. But anybody at the state level institutions, they want to distribute those back to the communities from which they came originally. So in our case, it was a little over about 2,000 people who actually were incarcerated and got distributed back into the districts in Contra Costa County. Not a very large number, but nevertheless, we could not move forward with doing maps until we actually had that data. Now, the public could draw maps even before that time, but they would have to have used what we refer to as legacy data or some of the older data. So it would not be totally correct. It would have been close, but not totally correct. But the California Fair Maps Act specifically provided that the county as an entity was not allowed to draw maps until 7 days after the California data was released, which was on September 20th. The idea behind this was they wanted to make sure that the public had an opportunity to look at the materials and draw maps even before the county would start the process. So once we had the material on October 5th, we had the second public hearing. And again, at that time, because of the timing, we had not presented any maps drawn by the county. The third public hearing was on October 19th, that was an evening meeting. One of the things that the Fair Maps Act requires is that we hold a minimum of 4 meetings, and at least one of those meetings must have been in the evening. So the one we had on October 19th met that requirement. So here we are now into the process in terms of doing the workshops in each of the supervisory districts, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. Our next public hearing will be on November 9th. That'll be the 4th public hearing. And then we'll have a 5th public hearing on November 23rd. All of this in order to meet the absolute deadline, which is December 15th. Again, by California, we must be done with the redistricting and have a map determined by the board by that time. In order to meet the December 15th deadline, there are posting timelines for when we could put the maps up, how long they have to be out in the public before the board can vote on the final map. And that's why essentially, as a practical matter, we have to resolve this issue yet in November. So that's why we're looking at that November 23rd date so that we can get a final map approved by the board within that December 15th timeline. So this, oops, I guess I'm going the wrong way here, right? So as I indicated, and why you are here this evening, of course, is we also scheduled individual supervisoral workshops. Part of the goal in this was to actually bring the process out to the public and to get your input, not only in person, but also by Zoom or call-in. And so essentially we set up a schedule of 6 workshops. And the purpose of these workshops was to essentially give everybody an opportunity to learn how to do the mapping, to participate in it, to give us your opinion, your ideas, and to be able to respond to any questions or concerns that you might have. So as you can see, again, we wanted to schedule these workshops outside the normal dates and times that we would have supervisor county board meetings. And so for this purpose, we had one of the workshops on Saturday morning. We had one yesterday, Sunday at noon, and we now have this one this evening. We'll have another one tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and Thursday night. And again, the purpose is to try and get as much input from you as possible. As I indicated, California has some very strict mandatory requirements and timelines. And so essentially, as I said, by law, we have to be done by December 15th. We had to hold at least 4 hearings. The schedule that we've set out will have 5 public hearings, plus all of the 6 workshops that we're talking about doing. One of the hearings, public hearings, had to be in the evenings, and of course, the one we had on October 19th met that requirement. The other thing is that the public hearings are set at a fixed time, and to begin at that. So one of the things, as the supervisor indicated, that's one of the reasons that we promptly start these meetings to comply with all of the requirements. As you're aware, one of the key things that we're supposed to consider as part of the process is what's called communities of interest. The statute sets out specifically what is communities of interest. And it says it's a population that shares common social or economic interests that should be included within a single supervisory district in order to be fairly represented. The statute also says that a community of interest can be almost anything, but it has to be identifiable by a specific geographic area. So the guiding principles say that when possible, we should maintain those communities of interest. And here's some examples of community interests that you might want to consider. So things like urban and rural interests, housing patterns, social interests, community centers, school districts or school attendance areas, as well as city boundaries, and then policy issues, things like concern about crime or education or employment or economic patterns. All of these are communities of interest that can be considered. We have a much more comprehensive listing of what is or are communities of interest on our dedicated redistricting website. So if you go to that site, if you're interested in drawing a community of interest, you'll see many more examples of what they may look like. With that introduction, I'm going to turn this over to Christine Sonstang now who's going to walk you through in terms of exactly how you can draw a community of interest or a potential supervisory district map. Once she is done walking you through that process, as I said, we'll have Chris Howard. We'll talk about some of the concept maps that we've put together. And just to be clear, these are only concept maps. They have not been considered by the board at this point, and these are just examples that we believe not only comply with the Fair Maps Act, but also reflect things that we have heard at the public meetings from the supervisors as well as from the public. And so with that, I will turn it over to Christine.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for taking the time to be here on a Monday evening. I am going to share my screen now, and what you see is our dedicated website. The URL, as David mentioned, is cocoredistricting.org, and on it you'll find a lot of information about redistricting and ways to provide input. As you notice, all of our menus are in English, Spanish, and Chinese, so hopefully everyone can get the information that they need. I'll take a quick run through the website, but we'll really just mostly focus on the mapping website. Upcoming events and important information is always front and center, and we have the maps that we have released so far, the draft concept maps, and these are also in our District R website. This blue bar has all the public input opportunities as well as the next events are highlighted on the left. And this is just one of many places that you could click to go to the redistricting, the District R public submission website, which is right here. This is the Contra Costa County Redistricting Public Portal. This site is hosted by District R, which is run out of Tufts University and their math lab. They created this program to encourage people to make their voices heard in redistricting. So there's a quick introduction as well as examples about the kind of testimony you can submit, which is either written testimony, a plan, or a community of interest. There's some tutorials on how to draw district maps, and those are also available on our website under communities of interest or district or drawing your own district. And these will open up the map, which we will get to shortly. As we scroll down, there's a form to submit your comment. It can be any of these types of comments, and I want to highlight a couple key things that I think everyone should know. Every map requires a title and a reason why this is important, so we can understand the importance of your community or your plan or your testimony and what's important. Also, we need a first name or an identifier and an email. And this email is important so that once you submit your plan, you need to confirm your submission so that District R doesn't get spammed with a lot of emails. This is really key. And there's some key information, disclaimers that you understand that this is a publicly posted comment, but we will not share email addresses or phone numbers if you submit them. And then if we have any questions, we like it if we could follow up with you. And then at the very bottom is a submission gallery, and this is all the public comments that we have received to date. We just got one in today. And there's also 5 maps here that are county draw maps that you can use to provide comments. So I'm going to go back up and pretend that I hit this button right here, which is the communities of interest, and it will open up a map of the county. And I'm just going to zoom in on an area and show you how you can quickly draw a map. All your tools going to be right up here. The hand will move around. You can zoom in and out using these over here. You can search for a community. I could put in Concord, California. Just going to zoom into Concord here. If I want to paint a layer, I can choose this paintbrush. This slide's really big, so we can do a large area here, or we could do a smaller area if I make it small. Just want to get some detail in right here. Once you're here, you can say this is the Concord area, and you might describe why that needs to be in the area. Know that have a little bit of the Monument Corridor in there and some other areas. And you could also do an important place. Let's see, it's activated here. I'm going to do the BART station is about right there and do BART station. This is the Contra Costa Center BART. So that is how you can create a community of interest. If you're looking for some assistance on where you are on this map, we have some data layers. You can put these on at any time. There's census designated places, municipalities, which are city boundaries, or the current districts, and you can layer as many as you want. So this is the current district right now. There's also some demographic information if you want to show where there's some population concentrations, or if you want to show it by a particular race, you could do, let's see, the Asian population. And where it's darker, there's a higher concentration. And then you can also review what you have based on population, the Concord area that you have in your community of interest and what that is compared to the county as a whole. Once you like your community of interest, go ahead and save it. And once you save, there's two different options. The first option is right here, that your plan has been saved, and you can copy this to the clipboard. This is particularly helpful if you are not all the way done, but you need to stop and move away from your computer for whatever reason. And you can paste this into an email to yourself, or a Word document or text document, or even email it to a friend if you want, and then it'll bring you right back to where you started. If you're ready to submit to the county, you can go down here and proceed to submit map, and it will take you directly to our submission form. It automatically selects community of interest. You can put your title. It auto-populates the URL, and then you can tell us why this is important, and then fill out the rest of everything and submit it. And once you do, and you authorize your email, it will show up down here. This is the Redistricting app, which is very similar. So if I'm on this site and I select this, I can go to this page. And this is if you want to submit a full district plan. The tools are very similar. Once again, you can hit the paintbrush, and then instead of just one community, there's 5 for the 5 districts. I'm going to start over here with 1. Wherever you start with this first one will be labeled District 1. I want this to be a little bit bigger here so I don't waste too much time. And as you can see, as I paint, the population balance fills in automatically. And I've done a little bit too much, so I'm going to erase some of this and try and get it down just a little bit. If I like the way this looks, I can paint. This right here is a great little tool. You can lock your already drawn districts, select a new color, and start drawing, and it won't go over the district or into past the county boundary. So we're just going to go out like that. And you can continue doing this until you have made your complete plan. One of the tools that I really like on this map is that you can highlight unassigned areas. And you can see that there's some areas that I've missed. I didn't realize I missed that. So I can go through and I can fill that in there. And I can fill this in here. And it will also tell you what the population is that's unassigned. Like the redistricting maps, there's the boundaries. You can show the numbers, so you can know 1, 2, 3. There's municipalities and current districts. And again, the evaluation, population by race, and the voting age population by race. And once again, you can go to save, and the same information comes up right here. And you can proceed to submit your map or go to the clipboard. There's one other feature that I think is really important and kind of exciting that I'd like to share. Let's say you look at the county's submission. This is one of the concepts that we proposed to the board, or that we presented to the board on October 19th. And you can see that it was presented on October 19th. You can see the map. You could go directly to proceed to submit a comment on this particular map. Let's say you really love this idea, but you're not exactly sure if you like how it looks over in the San Ramon Valley. And you could submit a comment about that. Or if you think this is a really good start and you want to start with this map, you can open it up and start painting and changing, erasing, or painting this particular map and change it to the way that you would like to see it. Let's say, in this case, I'm just going to pretend that I want this to be in District 2. And then you can go ahead and save and tell us why you think it's important that this area is in District 2. So I think that that is the summary of the mapping application. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris Howard. And if you have any questions, you can ask at the end of the presentation during public comment.
Thanks, Christine. I'm going to show you guys some maps. These are the concept maps that we presented to the board at the public hearing on October 19th, I believe. This first concept we're going to look at, and pretty much all of them, what I'm going to do to explain them is start here in the in kind of the northwest corner of the county and move in a counterclockwise direction. And as you'll see here, the current boundaries are in light yellow. In some places, they're a little bit harder to see than others, but in District 1 here, in the 2011 district maps, the city of Pinole was cut into two here at the freeway. In this first map proposal, Pinole, all of Pinole goes into District 1. As you move counterclockwise, here's the community of Release Valley that's kind of tucked in between Martinez, Pleasant Hill, Lafayette, and a little of Walnut Creek. This area in this proposal is going to be mapped by school district. So the Martinez School District, the portion in the Martinez School District will be in District 5. The portion in the Lafayette School District will be in District 2. And the portion in the Mount Diablo Unified District will be in District 4. In Walnut Creek here, Walnut Creek used to be split up here at the city, or at the freeway, the 680, but also it went and kind of cut downtown in half. This proposal brings all of incorporated Walnut Creek into District 4, as well as some of the unincorporated communities inside it. Walnut Creek has quite a few unincorporated communities kind of in the middle, including Acalanes Ridge, Castle Hill, and in this map, half of Saranac. The community of Saranac is actually divided into both Lafayette and Walnut Creek's spheres of influence. And because of the school district also kind of follows that same line. So this proposal divides it down the sphere of influence line. As you move further around the county down here to the San Ramon Valley, you'll notice the unincorporated communities of Diablo, Blackhawk, and Camina Tasahara, as well as the Tasahara Valley, all are currently in District 3. This map proposal would bring those into District 2. In the Mount Diablo area here, you'll notice the lines have all changed, and there's not a whole lot of people that live right here. And the reason these lines changed is because as we draw these maps, we need to use the census geography that was released as part of the census along with the population numbers. And that geography is different than it was 10 years ago. And some of these lines used last time aren't in there anymore. So we picked the new lines as best we could to kind of match it. And again, this is kind of the Mount Diablo State Park area. As you move over here, here's the community of Morgan Territory. It's generally Morgan Territory Road here and a little bit of Marsh Creek Road. In this map proposal, that stays in District 3. And as you circle around, you get to Antioch. First, I'm going to mention this little guy here. This was the annexation called Tuscany Meadows that was annexed into the city of Pittsburgh. So this used to be in District 3, but this map proposal will put that into District 5 with the rest of Pittsburgh. In this map, Antioch is split here, and it's split along the Union Pacific Railroad. Currently, in the current districts, it's split on Highway 4 and then up Cavallo Road to East 18th Street. But this map proposal has it split by the railroad, and then it hits the city limits of Oakley. And then in Concord here, you'll see currently the supervisorial limits boundaries follow the city limits and also include Buchanan Airport, which is unincorporated. This map proposal has the district follow Willow Pass Road down to Concord Ave over to 680 and puts a lot of North Concord as well as the Buchanan Airport into District 5. This map is, each map came with two maps. Basically, the first map has a lot of the details, so you can look at the map carefully and find your community. This map has a lot more data on it. So one of the big things we go with is the variance, and you add the high variance, which in this case is District 2 at 4.90% above the equal distribution, and the low is negative 2.55% for District 3. Add those two numbers together and you get 7.45%. That's the variance on this map. This page will also include lots of information about the race and ethnicity for the total population, as well as for the citizen voting age population data. Concept map 2, I'm going to go back and start in the same corner every time. This map also puts Pinole into District 1. In Release Valley, it follows the school district lines. In this proposal, Walnut Creek is split again, like it is currently, only it's split at the Highway 24 Interstate 680 line here. And so the communities of Castle Hill and Saranac are completely in District 2, and the community of Acalanes Ridge is completely in District 4. As we continue to go counterclockwise, you'll notice the San Ramon Valley and the Tassajara Valley go into District 2. In this map, the community of Morgan Territory, the boundary will follow the school district lines. So the area, the folks in this area that are in the Mount Diablo Unified School District will go into District 4. East County remains largely the same until you get around to Antioch. In this proposal or concept map, again, Tuscany Meadows goes into District 5, and here the split of Antioch is a fair bit different. It's kind of hard to follow because it's several different streets as it zigzags up across. And then as you go over to Concord, again, Willow Pass Road, and in this case, you'll see a little bump here. There's a neighborhood that's on kind of the north side of Willow Pass Road. That will stay with District 4. And then this will follow East Street, Grant Street, and Solano Way up to Highway 4. In this map proposal, Buchanan Airport is in District 4. This map proposal has a total variance of 7.66%, with District 2 the highest at 4.82% and District 5 the lowest at negative 2.84%. Concept map 3 again puts Pinole into District 1, Release Valley by school district, Walnut Creek by 24,680, San Ramon Valley, Tasajara Valley to District 2, Morgan Territory Road area inside Mount Diablo School District to District 4, Antioch, again, the Tuscany Meadows annexation to Pittsburgh to District 5, but right here, just a very slight adjustment to current districts, almost exactly the same. And then as you come over here to Concord, this one follows Willow Pass Road, goes around the little neighborhood, and then goes up Olivera Road until it hits Highway 242. It goes down 242 and then comes back up here, which is an old railroad right-of-way. Here, I think it's mostly got public storage on it, but it's a good boundary to separate this neighborhood, to keep this neighborhood intact. And as you see, this map proposal has a total variance of 8.82%, with the high again in District 2 at 4.82%, and the low this time in District 3 at -4%. Our next map, again starting in Pinole, goes to District 1. Release Valley goes to District 2, or by school district rather. Walnut Creek follows 24680. San Ramon Valley, Tasajara Valley go to District 2. This map follows the census geography around Mount Diablo and keeps Morgan Territory Road area in District 3. In Antioch, there's again Tuscany Meadows goes to 5. And then this time the split is fairly different. It follows Cavallo Road up to Fulton Shipyard Road and splits Antioch in kind of a east-west fashion. In Concord, the split's a little smaller. It follows Highway 4, Port Chicago Highway, Bonifacio Street, and then up the railroad right-of-way here. This does split off a little bit of downtown from the rest of Concord. The total variance on this plan is 8.92%, with the high of 4.81% in District 2 and a low of -4.11% in District 5. Our final map concept has a lot of familiar sites. Pinole goes to District 1, Release Valley by school district, Walnut Creek by 24680, San Ramon Valley, Tasajara Valley to District 2, Mount Diablo by census geography, Morgan Territory Road in District 3. Antioch is split this time by Summersville Road and the railroad. So it's kind of this is the largest amount of Antioch in District 5 in any of these concept maps. And as you curve over to Concord, it's the smallest split of Concord. So it follows Highway 4, Highway 242, and the railroad right-of-way. This map concept has a variance of 9.68%, with the high of 4.18% in District 2 and the low of -4.87% in District 5. With that, I'm done explaining the concept maps. I could pass it back over to you.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Christine, and thank you, David. So this ends the PowerPoint presentation. I know that's a lot of data to take into just to absorb. I was teasing David. He can probably recite this in his sleep. I'm getting close. And so I understand we have about 20 people on Zoom. If you in the audience would like to make a comment, you're welcome to do so. Come on up and use the mic, because as I said, we're recording this, but I need you to fill out a speaker's card. We haven't had to do that for so long that it's a new thing. Ms. McHugh over there is holding up the yellow cards. So another Chris is off camera here, and he is going to handle letting me know about Zoom. Do we know if we have any callers? We do not have any callers. This is being closed captioned, so I can't see it, but there is a phone number there, and I'm assuming, hopefully, if you're like me on your TV, you can take off closed captioning for a minute, and you can see the instructions for calling in. I believe there, thank you so much. The number is 888-251-2949. with the access code 1672589#. And then to raise your hand, you just press #2 and you'll get in the queue. But we're going to go with the Zoom questions first. And so, Chris, how is this handled? Does everybody come up on the screen, or do you just let one person in at a time?
So I'll go ahead and let one person out at a time.
Okay.
And they have 3 minutes to state their comment. They can turn on their video if they'll like. And they'll go from there.
Since this is a workshop, it's not quite like public comment. I'm going to be a little bit more informal here. And so if you have a question about anything you heard here, we'll try to answer it. If we can't tonight, which I sincerely doubt we can't answer it, but if we can't, we'll get back to you. And if you just want to comment, we're happy to hear your comment. But as Christine said earlier, in order for it to get into the record, we need you to go to cocoredistricting.org and go down to making a comment. So, Chris, let's take it away.
All right. And as a reminder, if you would like to make a comment via Zoom, you may click the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen.
Si hay alguien que desea hacer un comentario por Zoom, por favor levante la mano o opriman el símbolo de mano en el inferior de la pantalla. Gracias.
Okay, so moving on to our first Zoom participant. Tim, you're going to get a prompt to join as a panelist. So if you can please accept the prompt.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Zoom, what happens is you get in there and you're admitted as an attendee, but in order to come on and make a comment, we have to promote you to panelist. But you will get a message asking you to do that, and all you have to do is click yes, and then Chris can admit you so you can make your comment.
All right, and Tim, whenever you are ready, if you can unmute yourself, and if you'd like to turn on your webcam, you can do so as well.
Good
Okay.
evening.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Good. Okay. My name's Tim Carr. I live over in Concord, and I just saw this actually this morning. I was really surprised that Concord, number one, had a big chunk taken out of it, just the north part of Concord, and I was disappointed in that. You know, I really think you guys should be trying to follow city lines. Now, you know, you're asking me to draw a map myself. I'm really not going to be capable of doing that. But if you could try and follow the city lines a little better. The other important thing that I saw about this is we have development over in Pittsburgh. There's a brand new Ceno project where they're going to build a lot of homes up on the hills in West Pittsburgh. Then that's being done by Ceno. Now all of a sudden Ceno has the Naval Weapons Station, and what you've done with all the maps except for map number 5 is that would all be handled by the same county supervisor, whoever is number 5, which right now would be Federal Glover, I believe. And I'm thinking that we should have 2 different supervisors handling these 2 different projects. It seems like something that would be fair, proper, and you know, make things a little more above board. But so if I have to pick a map, I would pick number 5. But it would really be nice if you could put that one piece of Concord back into the same district that it was in with the rest of the town. And that's it.
Thank you very much. For the next, I should mention we've got 3 minutes speaking time, and I believe at either 15 or 20 seconds beforehand, you'll hear a beep, and 20 seconds. And so that doesn't mean stop talking. It means you just need to wrap up in the next 20 seconds. And I will have some comments at the end about some of the maps and why they're split the way they are. So, all right. Thank you. Next Zoom participant. We don't have any other Zoom participants. Okay. And we still don't have any callers. I know Mr. Bursan, Eddie Bursan would like to speak. Eddie, here's a mic right behind you.
Am I facing this way?
You can talk to me and it's fine.
Okay. Eddie Bursan, and as full disclosure, I am on the Concord City Council, former mayor, and I am running for supervisor for District 4. However, I'm focusing mostly right now on my reactions on a 38-year resident of Concord. I find that maps 1, 2, 3, for the most part, are totally unacceptable, and I believe that we should make every attempt to keep cities whole. So let's take a look at map 1, where you come down Willow Pass and Concord Boulevard. That population amount that you're taking is almost identical, from what I can figure, to the entire population of the city of Clayton, which also borders on District 5. So the other thing I would like to point out is that in our definition that you provided about communities of interest, it talks about population. So the current, and you have to go by what is the current population. We can't project going forward. Therefore, in all the maps, it makes no sense to take the Concord Naval Weapons Station away from the center of Concord. As for map 5, I would say that the area you're trying to take is what's called Hillcrest, which is a very small population. And it also has some of the industrial area to the north. I would propose again that we keep the city of Concord whole and that small population be made up elsewhere. So these are significant factors. I also, again, believe that we should be looking at maps where the cities are, where the attempt is to make the cities whole, as opposed to going into an area where we are dividing places like Antioch. We have the opportunity to reverse what was done before. And I understand there is both political as well as geographic areas of concern. But I believe that we can do this, and I would like to see these maps sent back to staff with more of an attention to those goals of keeping cities whole, and second, taking a very special look at empty space and not putting empty space as a community of interest. So there we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Has anyone else zoomed in? Okay, go ahead, please.
All right, so moving on to our next Zoom participant, Suzanne, you're going to receive a prompt. If you can please accept to join as a panelist. And whenever you are ready, if you can please unmute yourself, and if you like, you can turn on your video. You have 3 minutes to state your comment.
Thank you. So I too would like to reiterate what Council Member Eddie Bursan just said. I agree. We should keep cities whole, and every effort should be made to do so. I live in Concord, and I definitely do not like seeing a small piece of Concord, North Concord, being taken away from the rest of Concord. So please do everything you can to keep cities whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to our next Zoom participant, Cora, you're going to receive a prompt. If you can please accept to join as a panelist.
Welcome. Go ahead, Cora. We can hear you.
Hi there. Thank you so much for taking my call. I just want to say it's not often that I agree with Tim Carr, but I guess there's a first time for everything. I'm also a Concord resident, and I feel it's really important to ensure that there are multiple layers of oversight available for community members in regards to these pending CINO projects. there are many reasons to feel uncomfortable about splitting out a piece of Concord. I would like to see that not happen for many reasons, but knowing that this project is currently underway and it's as controversial as it is, I do have concerns about it all falling under the same representative. I would really appreciate every effort be made to keep our city cohesive in our district boundaries. Concord actually seems like a much more appropriate place to take a cut out of the district because it does seem like it's much more closely resembling places in Brentwood and out in that area. They're geographically very much the same. So again, please take a look at the maps again and do everything that you can to put that little piece right back into Concord. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cora.
Okay, moving on to our next Zoom participant, Kevin. You're going to receive a prompt. If you can please accept to join as a panelist.
Welcome, Kevin. Go ahead. You may be on mute, so you need to take yourself off.
Thank you, Karen. I'm Kevin Cabral. I'm speaking on behalf as Kevin, as a citizen of Concord. I would really love to see the airport, the District 5, the division there is the closest to resemble, I guess, if this is moving forward, what I would like to see. I think it's untimely to separate those projects out of the city of Concord, considering the future that airport bears for Concord and also the Naval Weapons Station. I appreciate this venue, this happening right now. I would love to see the maps up so people could discuss the maps as we're looking at them. I feel like we moved a little bit quickly through the maps, but I love that there's this forum. I appreciate it. I too would love to see Concord whole, of course. And thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, moving on to our next Zoom participant. Cherry, so you're going to receive a prompt. If you can please accept to join as a panelist.
Good evening and welcome.
Hi, this is Cherise Cound. I'm a resident of Walnut Creek in Area 4 here. Also, I'm on the Mount Diablo School Board. And we recently went through the process of our by-area trustee areas because of the California Voting Rights Act. So my question for you tonight is, if the purpose of the California Voting Rights Act is to really enfranchise minority voters, how are these various maps doing up with that goal? One of the things that we found when we went through the process as a school district was people were very focused on which school is located in which area and things like that, when really the ultimate goal of the areas has to do with voters. Where are the voters and which area, supervisor are they going to be voting for? So I would love for someone there to be able to talk more about how are each of these various maps enfranchising the various minority voters that we have in our county. Thanks.
Sharif, were you able to have you been able to go to cocoredistricting.org?
Yes, and I see how on the second map, the more detailed data is there. But I was just wondering if someone could speak to that data a little bit more, because that just hasn't, the data is present on the map, but having someone speak about it, I think might be helpful in this situation.
Okay, I'll have Mr. Twa address that after we complete all of the other callers. Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to our next Zoom participant, Anne. You're going to receive your prompt to be promoted as a panelist. If you can please accept.
Good evening and welcome. You may be on mute. Hello?
Mute? All
there
right.
You are.
Technology. Thank you. Cherise had my question. We've talked about the reason for doing this this time around is to honor the communities of interest a little more, or be more aware of communities of interest. And the map presentation by staff was thorough, of course, but I didn't pick up on where the communities of interest are. Obviously, my first reaction was, we ought to keep cities intact. That's number one to me. But actually, number one should be communities of interest. So if staff could address that a little bit more, I'd appreciate it too. Thank you, Charisse.
Thank you, Charisse.
Okay, moving on to our next Zoom participant. Addie, you're going to receive a notification, a prompt to be promoted as a panelist, so if you can please accept.
Good evening and welcome. You may need to take yourself off mute. There you are. Hello.
Oh, great. Great. Thank you. The Olvera Concord residents. Good to see you, Karen. I've been looking at the maps briefly here and there. Busy mom. It's hard to really focus in on a lot of this stuff. So I really, have to trust our supervisors to make the right decisions, for Concord. But given this opportunity to speak up, I'd like to say that it kind of makes me really nervous and concerned that Concord would be split up. And that even in some of those places that are being split up, you have schools that would end up in another district outside of District 4. And some of those lines that are being cut off, cutting the downtown is not okay because there's so much diversity in the downtown. And those communities need to stick together. So much of the monument in the downtown convene very closely together in those areas, and splitting up the downtown in one of those maps is not a good idea. Our hospital system is right off of Grant Ant Street. It shouldn't be partitioned off into another area, and some of our schools. And so I'd like to see the Naval Weapons Station, the airport, our hospital, and our schools, and all that, area that's going to be developed through the Naval Weapons Station stay within District 4 so that we can communicate with our our supervisor representative and our city officials on the issues more smoothly. I want to just give a little bit of feedback that I was just in another meeting where I saw that they provided sign language interpretation, and because we're not in gallery view, I'm not sure if that's happening here. But I'd like to be able to see that in some of the sessions provided for the community. And I don't even know how to join the Spanish language to see how to hear that the language interpretation in another language. And I'd also like to know what is the reason for splitting up Concord? I mean, we've kept Concord whole before, and why this sudden change now? And if I could suggest that we also consider having independent demographers that specialize on looking at race and ethnicity and issues of inequality, look at these maps as part of the process and give a special presentation to the community that if it would be allowed. Thank you very much.
I did want to mention what Addie is referring to is on our Measure X committee, we did have American Sign Language, but we didn't have the capacity to do closed captioning. And in this forum and in all the others, we do have the capacity to do closed captioning. So it's not American Sign Language, but we are hoping those in our deaf community who need to participate have the adequate tools in order to do that. I'd also like to mention before we take our next Zoom caller, I know there's a little anxiety about these maps, and some of you are seeing them for the first time. As you recall from Mr. Twa's earlier presentation, this isn't coming back to the board. Well, it's coming back on November 9th for an update, and November 23rd. And so that's a little less. Well, no, today's 25th. So the 23rd is 4 weeks from tomorrow. So don't be concerned that you have to make a comment or draw your map tonight. You've got much time to go back. And as Christine mentioned, you can save that map and then go back and do some twiddling to it if you feel like it, or print it out. So that's why by law there's so much time to respond so that you have that information. All right. Do we have our next Zoom participant?
All right, moving on to our next Zoom participant, Carlin. You're going to receive a notification to be promoted as a panelist, so if you can please accept.
Good evening and welcome, Carlin. You may be on mute, Carlin.
There we go. So good evening, Supervisor Mitchoff. Thank you very much for holding this workshop this evening. My name is Carlin Obringer. I'm the council person here in Concord that actually represents the northern part of the city, which is our District 2. And I was calling in because I am concerned that there is the proposal to have the city of Concord split. And so first, I would like to advocate that Concord be kept whole. And if that's not possible, I do think it's really important to have, there's the Northern Waterfront Initiative that I know the Board of Supervisors has been working on for about a decade. And I think it's really important, if that initiative is going to be successful, to have that in the portfolio of not one, not two, but three supervisors, extending all the way to Oakley, from Hercules to Oakley, and also including Concord. So I think that it would be important to keep the Concord Naval Weapons Station within District 4. And I do also want to share the concern that our downtown, I would like to keep that within the sphere of influence of District 4 as well. And as a council member who right now, I do have to interact with not one, but two BART directors, because both BART stations are located in my city council district. It can be very challenging to try to address constituent issues, having two different directors to have to connect with. And so it would be really challenging to have to deal just within one city council district, potentially with two supervisors. So I just wanted to weigh in and share that perspective from the council person that actually represents the area that's being proposed to be split, and advocate against that. Thank you very much, Supervisor.
Great. Thank you, Carlin.
Okay, moving on to our next Zoom participant, Stephen. You're going to receive a notification to be promoted as a panelist, so if you can please accept.
Good evening and welcome. You may be on mute. Hello?
All right, Stephen, if you can please unmute yourself at the bottom of your screen.
Bottom left-hand side of your bottom.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you go.
Hi.
Good evening.
I don't know the difference between panelist, participant, and host or whatever, but I finally got on here. That's the main thing. Yeah, so let's start with what other city is being split up? Because, of course, I'm not in favor of excising.
The other two cities being split up are Antioch and Walnut Creek.
Okay, so we're not the only one. I live in the area that we're concentrating on these phone calls, which is North Concord in the Hillcrest community. And all of a sudden, we've been excised into a different district. So, yeah, any resident here would be concerned. Number one, you should have made a map with the community names on them so we could see what communities are in each district. Number two, why are you putting Hillcrest community into District 5? Number three, all the maps don't show yellow lines of original map. Very important because you are changing the map. So it's very important to show the yellow lines on all the maps so we can compare what's going on. And what does variance mean? Because it turns out from your presentation, I forget the name now who presented it, but it seems like our district has the highest variance in every map. District 2, where Hillcrest community is, and what does that mean? And so that pretty much wraps it up. What are and finally, what are the advantages and disadvantages of us going to a different district? Could you kind of expand on that? Because people would want to know what's going to happen, if we do get, okay, thank you.
And I'll be happy to answer that at the conclusion with my remarks. Thank you.
All right, so we do have one more Zoom participant. John, you're going to receive a notification to be promoted as a panelist, so if you can please accept.
Good evening and welcome. You may need to unmute yourself.
I did. Hi, this is John Habercorn. I'm in Concord.
Hi
I
there.
have a question. On the citizen voting age population, District 3, in none of the proposed maps adds up to 100%. It varies by about 10%, or I should say 5 to 10%. I also agree with the other callers who have expressed that they don't want to see North Concord split out from Concord. I agree with that. But I do question why the math isn't working. And I did it on the fly, so I hope I'm right.
And I'm sure it's not easy to take all that in. Believe me, I've looked at them several times. Mr. Twa will address that at the conclusion also. And do we have any more Zoom speakers? And no callers? And no other public commenters? Okay. Well, let me give you my comments as your supervisor right now. I can assure you that no county staff purposely set out to split up cities, that they would like to do the same and keep everybody whole. But it's not always possible. And as much as Mr. Twa talked about the variance of the lowest and the highest and what that number is, no district can go below 5% or above 5%. And so I'm informed that one of the reasons Concord has the splits that have been proposed is if we made Concord whole, District 4 would go over 5%. Personally, right now, I am not going to support Map 1. The airport will be staying in District 4. You can be assured of that and take it to the bank. In looking at the maps, Mr. Twa took into account, as did county staff, all of the comments that we had heard to date, along with Board of Supervisors input. And so, as you can imagine, listening to 5 elected officials is not always easy to accommodate. And so that's one reason we came up with 5 different maps. And in each one, believe me, I asked the question, I know Concord is split. My recollection is map 5 is the one that takes the least amount of Concord out of District 4. The one that goes down to Bonifacio and takes in John Muir Hospital, I won't be supporting that either. That splits the downtown in too many communities. Mr. Brissan is correct. There isn't anybody living at the Naval Weapons Station right now, but it's trying to keep that all in there with some other neighborhoods there. So I would prefer map 5 because it takes the least amount of Concord. But in looking at map 3, that's probably the one that best serves Concord and takes the least amount of space and keeps the airport in District 4. I can tell you, I know this is my second go around with redistricting. We have to do this, as Mr. Twa mentioned. There was a Zoom panelist who asked that question. We don't get to not do it. And we've grown. And District 4 has grown as well. And so how do we accommodate all of that growth, which, believe me, 10 years ago, there was a whole lot more growth. And so it was a radical change at that time. This doesn't change so much other than, yes, each map does take out some of Concord. It's just because Concord's the biggest city, and in order to keep other parts together, and I know Mr. Brissan talked about Clayton, and I'm sure staff will go back and look at that. But Clayton is closer to Concord than Clayton is in District 5 for services and school districts. As Chris Howard mentioned, you may have remembered when he was talking about Morgan Territory, it encompassed at that end all of Mount Diablo. Currently, Mount Diablo School District is split between two supervisors because up in Bay Point is Mount Diablo School District, and that is District 5. I think sometimes cities and their residents and or elected officials believe that in splitting a city, we are making the city less than or thinking not as much as. But I can tell you, and I heard the Councilmember Obringer talking about not only the district that she represents, but having two BART directors. Sometimes that can be a pain. I get letters in, and so sometimes I do forward those on to the supervisor within whose district that is. But the cities that are split have mentioned to us that they like having two supervisors. They feel that they've got two opportunities to lobby and two votes, if you will, on the Board of Supervisors as opposed to one. My job this time is going to be balancing the concerns and needs and wishes of Concord residents with the rest of the issues in District 4. And my other colleagues are going to be doing the same relative to the representatives, those whom they represent. So I may have some additional closing comments, but I wanted to try and address what I heard on the Zoom and to share with you as your supervisor what my current reaction is. Now, again, you can go to the county website and get to my website where my email is, Supervisor Mitchoff at bos.ccccounty.us. And let me know what you think. You can go to the cocoredistricting.org and make your comments there. I will get them. And again, we won't be making a final decision. We've set it for November 23rd. As an indication of how important that is, that's the week of Thanksgiving. And normally the board, in all my years of working for the county, whether I was on the board or not, we have never met during the week of Thanksgiving. But in order to give everyone time and have their opportunity, that is why we are meeting, and we have to meet that December 15th deadline. So if there is a concern, we still have some wiggle room after November 23rd, although I'm sure behind me Mr. Twa is going, no, you know, he wants it finished. But anyway, those are my concluding comments, unless there's any other questions or comments in the audience. Otherwise, Mr. Twa is going to wrap it up for us.
Thank you, Supervisor Mitchoff. I wanted to grab that map 3 just because I want to check that voting age population number that the gentleman spoke of. I suspect part of the confusion comes from the issue that the data comes from two different sources. The voting age population actually comes to us from a different set of data as the total population data, and that's because one of the data sources was based upon what was called the now I got to think of the name of it in terms of it's the data that actually was done over a 5-year period from 2015 to 2019, and that was because you may recall that during the census data specifically for a lot of different reasons, some of which were political at the national level, immigration population wasn't necessarily counted in one manner as opposed to the way that it was counted in the other one. So in some respects, the data is not complete, but the reason we show both the total population, because technically that is the census data number that we have to use for the purpose of adjusting the district boundaries. But because of the Voter Rights Act, which was passed way back in 1965, as well as the Fair Maps Act, which was passed 2 years ago by the California state legislature, we are also required to show the voting age population. And So again, both of those are taken into consideration, even though they have slightly different databases. But they're taken into consideration specifically to address the issue of race and ethnicity. So one of the things that we have been very careful to do is to make sure that every map that we draw, every map that is submitted by the public has that data in it, both by total population as well as by voting age population. And that is to make sure that we are consistently looking at the issues of race and ethnicity to make sure that no proposed map will discriminate or violate any of the voting rights of any of the population bases. So we're very careful about that. We also work very closely with our county council's office so that they also review this data at the same time that we are doing it. Again, just to make sure that we're complying with both the state and federal law as it relates to not only how we design the districts in terms of population and meet the deviation standards, but also so that we meet all requirements as far as race and ethnicity to ensure that we are not discriminating against any particular group. I do want to thank everybody for coming, and I'll turn it back over to Supervisor Mitchoff, but this has been a very active group this evening, and we really appreciate all of you who have taken the time to participate.
Thank you, Mr. Twa, and I want to thank the county staff who are all here. It's great that they're here, but they've been at every one of those other meetings, so we really appreciate it. In addition to this workshop, I invite you to go back to our county website, and if you press enough buttons, you'll get to our meetings and then agenda. And if you want, you can go back and look at those two meetings. I believe it was September 12th and October 19th, and watch the video. You can speed it up and slow it down to hear more information by the supervisors, all five of us, what we were saying, if that will help inform you more. And if you do have questions, the tutorial is pretty self-explanatory, but I tried it and I wasn't as successful as some of my colleagues were. I will go back and work with county staff and ask what the deviation would be if we were able to, the one area that I know you're all concerned about. Again, as I said, that map 5, which takes this least amount of Concord out, as you noticed, I believe it was 9.65 in deviation, which leaves us 0.35. So that's what we're dealing with here. But I do commit to go back and at least talking with staff about some minor tweaks if we're able to do that. And with that, thank you very much. I'll stick around for those in the audience who have any questions, and have a good evening.